In Initial D, they say that the 86 is a car that trains the driver, and just like how driving without a handbrake will force you to pay a little bit more attention to when you do your transitions and how much force you throw, the 86 is similar in that you don't have the ability to correct with power if you come up short, so you really have to commit and make the car go down the track enough to be where you want it to be. So, like, one of the cool things about the 86 is it forces you to go fast enough. If you go too slow, you're not going to be able to make it because you can't just add power. That's why cars that require you to conserve momentum are so interesting, and they train you to drive kind of hard. Is because there's really no going back if you come up short. You can always use the brakes and try to pull it back if you go too fast. But if you don't go fast enough, that's just the end. And one of the things that makes the 86 kind of a fun and challenging car is that you don't have a whole lot of power to work with, and so your options are restricted. Drifting an 86 is kind of like drifting without an e-brake, in the sense that excess engine horsepower gives you a lot more options, it gives you a wider safety net, and it changes how you can drive the car. Obviously, you can drive a super powerful car at its limit, and that is just as cool as doing like low power stuff. But with low power, you just don't have the ability to... Thanks for the follow. You don't have the ability to get yourself out of trouble if you end up driving into a less than ideal predicament. So you can kind of see that in these cars and the way that they handle. The big thing that I notice is to do with transition timing and the force of your transitions. So when you are trying to tandem with somebody, ideally if you're already close to them, you want your transition to occur at the same time as theirs. If you are too early, you can actually like climb up the side of their car like this and end up almost passing them. It's also a way, depending on how you drive, that you can use to gain some proximity if you're a little farther away than you'd like to be. And conversely, if you are transitioning later than them, usually that'll create more space between the two cars. That will pull you apart a little bit. But on top of that, you also have the strength of the transition, which is to say how far the car floats towards the outside of the track. And that's going to be influenced by whether you're doing an on-throttle transition, or like me, you tend to use off-throttle transmissions and then roll back in to throttle after the car finishes changing direction, or mostly finishes changing direction. Oop, gripped up there, had a bit of servo lag, sorry. So that is something that's really getting revealed by just tearing up the track in these 86s. When I'm in a slightly more powerful car in Assetto, or in real life for that matter, you know, something that makes closer to 300 wheel instead of probably 180 or something like that for these, even if the timing of my transition is spot on, if the strength of the transition is too strong or too weak, then it puts the car offline on the track. Like here, I'm way more inside than the two cars ahead of me, and so I have to drive this kind of weird football-shaped line through the corner in an attempt to work my way back to the outside, which I was able to do this time. But in a more powerful car, like an S chassis or really anything turbo or V8, you have the ability to drive kind of tight and then left foot brake and sort of push out to the angle that the lead car is running. And it works pretty well, but with the 86, it just doesn't have the guts to do that. So it's really important and quite fun and challenging to try and predict not only when the timing of the lead car, you can see my timing is okay. Like I'm transitioning at about the same time as our lead driver here. But there are instances where he pushes out wide and I don't, because he does like a on-throttle transition or he creeps into throttle sooner. In that case, I did an angle stall, got just a little too much angle for the car and lost a lot of speed, so he got away because of that, and that put me on the inside. But it's just really interesting trying to synchronize with the lead car in these low power situations. So what it amounts to is a handicap for the driver, because you don't have the power to just drive out when you end up too far inside. And that's why I say it's kind of like driving without the e-brake. It's not the exact same. I mean, obviously we have an e-brake in these cars, but the lack of power means that, like this, I went to e-brake up on them, and then I clutch kicked out, and it just sucked to the inside, and wasn't actually able to stay in drift, let alone keep my proximity. So it changes what I've got to do. An S-chassis car, for me, like at my current set of habits, the safe move is to transition a little early, a little shallow, and then left foot brake or e-brake up to them. And like I can do that under power in a JZ or a V8, even an SR20 if I really want to beat the clutch up a little bit. Like, it works fine when you have torque. But with these cars, 86s are really fun, but they're quite gutless, and so you just can't do that. I have to get my, I guess, the force of the transition correct in addition to the timing. Fun times, 86 things. Thank you guys for checking out this video. If you haven't already, please hit like and consider subscribing. I drift in real life, and I also drift here in the simulator, as you can see, and I live stream every week where I like to share little tidbits about driving technique and hang out with the crew. So do look us up. Discord is linked in the description, where you can get everything you need to know to join a fun and growing community. We have close to 10,000 members now, so hopefully we'll see you on track. Peace, guys.